You finish cooking dinner. The stove is off, the pan is in the sink, the counters are clean, and the range hood has been running the entire time. But an hour later, you walk into the living room and you can still smell dinner. You go down the hallway, same smell. Then somehow, you get into bed and your bedroom smells like the kitchen too. So the next night, you do the obvious thing. You turn the hood up higher. Now it's louder, a lot louder. You can hear the fan working from across the room. And somehow, the smell still spreads through the house. That's the strange part, because a range hood can be running without actually capturing very much of what you're cooking. And once you understand that, a lot of kitchens suddenly make more sense. Think about what happens above a hot pan. The air directly over the food heats up, it rises, and it carries steam, tiny droplets, grease, and cooking odours with it. That rising column of warm air is trying to go somewhere. Ideally, it rises straight into the range hood. The hood captures it, pulls it through the filter, and, in a ducted system, sends it outside. That's the version most of us imagine. Pan, hood, outside. Simple. But real kitchens don't always behave that neatly. The important question isn't, can I hear the fan? It's, is the hood actually catching the air coming off the pan? Because those are not the same thing. Imagine cooking on a burner directly underneath the center of the hood. Hot air rises. The hood is right above it. The path is short. Now move that same pan toward the front edge of the stove. The rising air is suddenly closer to the edge of the hood. Some of it can move past the capture area and spill into the kitchen. Once that happens, the range hood can't remove air it never captured in the first place. And then the rest of the house becomes part of the airflow path. The smell moves out of the kitchen, into the living room, up the stairs, down the hallway, into fabrics, curtains, furniture. And eventually, you start wondering why dinner is still following you around hours later. So before you assume you need a more powerful fan, there are a few things worth looking at. First, watch what happens while you're actually cooking, not after, during. When steam rises from a pan, does most of it move toward the hood? Or can you clearly see it escaping out the front or drifting sideways into the room? You don't need special equipment to notice the basic pattern. Sometimes you can see it immediately. And here's another clue. Which burner are you using most often? If most of your high heat cooking happens at the very front of the stove, try paying attention to whether the plume is actually staying underneath the hood. That doesn't automatically mean the front burner is wrong, it means the position of the cooking source matters. Now look at the hood itself. Is the filter coated in grease? Has it been a long time since it was cleaned? A dirty filter doesn't automatically explain every odor problem, but it's an obvious part of the system worth checking, because the fan still has to move air through that filter. But there's a bigger question, and this one surprises a lot of homeowners. Where does your range hood actually send the air? Because not every hood sends it outside. Some systems pull air through filters, then release that air right back into the kitchen. That's called recirculation, and that can be useful for filtering some grease and odors, but it is not the same thing as physically exhausting cooking air outdoors. So from inside the kitchen, two hoods can look almost identical. Both make noise. Both pull air through a grill. Both feel like they're doing something. But behind the cabinets, they may be doing two completely different things. 1. Air in, through the hood, through a duct, outside. The other, air in, through a filter, then back into the room. That's worth knowing, because if you think your hood is exhausting outside, but it's actually recirculating, you may be trying to solve the wrong problem. And even if your hood is ducted outside, the duct still matters. A long route, a restriction, a disconnected section, or another airflow problem can reduce how effectively air moves through the system. Again, the fan may still sound completely normal. That's becoming a pattern in homes. Noise tells you that a motor is running. It doesn't necessarily tell you that air is moving where you think it is. There's one more part people rarely think about. If you're pulling air out of a kitchen, air has to come back into the house somehow. The house isn't an empty box. As exhaust air leaves, replacement air has to enter from somewhere. Depending on the home, that can affect how well an exhaust system performs. You don't need to diagnose all of that yourself. The point is to stop treating the hood like a simple on-off appliance. It's part of an airflow system, and systems depend on paths. So if cooking smells keep spreading through your house, start with the pattern. Does the smell get worse with frying or high-heat cooking? Does steam escape around the front of the hood? Are you mostly using the front burners? Is the filter dirty? Does the hood actually vent outside? Does the airflow seem strong, or is the fan mostly just loud? Those answers tell you much more than simply pressing the highest fan setting again, and there are a few simple habits that can help too. Turn the hood on before the pan is already producing a cloud of steam. Use the part of the cooktop that sits best within the hood's capture area when practical. Keep the filters maintained, and let the hood continue clearing the kitchen for a while after cooking is finished. But if cooking air is visibly bypassing the hood, or the system seems weak even when it's clean and running, that's when inspecting the duct, exhaust route, or overall ventilation setup becomes more useful. Because the goal isn't to make the fan louder, the goal isn't even to make the kitchen smell better for 5 minutes. The real goal is to capture the cooking air before it becomes air for the entire house. So the next time you cook dinner, don't just listen to the range hood. Watch the air, watch the steam, watch where it goes. Because if your bedroom still smells like dinner hours later, the question may not be, why is this smell so strong? The better question is, why didn't the hood catch it in the first place? A fan can be running, a kitchen can sound ventilated, and the cooking air can still escape. Because when it comes to a range hood, running isn't the same thing as capturing.